scary Peppa Pig episode that never made it on TV. Peppa and George were playing in their bedroom when they noticed something strange. The mirror on their wardrobe was showing a different reflection than it should. Instead of their bright, colorful room, the mirror showed a dark, twisted version where everything was backwards and wrong. In the mirror world, there stood a creature that looked exactly like Peppa, but something was terribly off. This mirror Peppa had eyes that were completely black, like deep holes in her face, and her smile was far too wide, stretching from ear to ear in an impossible way. Her red dress was torn and faded, and she moved in jerky, unnatural motions. Mirror Peppa began tapping on the glass from the inside, trying to get their attention. Each tap made a hollow, echoing sound that seemed to come from everywhere at once. She pointed at the real Peppa and George, then pointed at herself, as if she wanted to switch places. George started crying, but when he looked in the mirror, his reflection wasn't crying at all. Instead, Mirror George was laughing silently, his mouth open wide but no sound coming out. The real George's tears seemed to be flowing upward, defying gravity, while Mirror George's laughter grew more and more manic. Peppa tried to cover the mirror with a blanket, but every time she did, the blanket would slide off by itself. Mirror Peppa was getting stronger, and the boundary between the real world and the mirror world was beginning to blur. Objects in the room started moving on their own, rearranging themselves to match the backwards layout of the mirror world. The temperature in the room dropped suddenly, and their breath became visible in the cold air. Mirror Peppa pressed her face against the glass, her black eyes staring directly at them. She began mouthing words, but no sound came through. However, somehow Peppa could understand what she was saying. "Let me out. Let me be real. Let me take your place." Mummy Pig called from downstairs, but when Peppa looked toward the door, she saw that Mirror Peppa was no longer in the mirror. She was standing right behind them in the real room, her impossible smile even wider than before. The real Peppa realized with horror that she and George were now the ones trapped inside the mirror, looking out at their own room where Mirror Peppa now stood. Mirror Peppa waved at them from the real world, her black eyes gleaming with satisfaction. She had finally escaped her backwards prison and taken their place. From inside the mirror, Peppa and George could only watch helplessly as Mirror Peppa went downstairs to meet their family, knowing that no one would ever realize the switch had been made. It was a beautiful sunny morning at Peppa's house. Everything seemed perfect and normal, just like any other day. Peppa was playing with her favorite toys in the living room when she heard a strange noise coming from upstairs. The mysterious sound seemed to be coming from the attic. Peppa had never been up there alone before. In the dusty attic, Peppa found something strange, an old mirror covered by a mysterious cloth. When Peppa removed the cloth, she revealed an ancient mirror with strange symbols carved into its frame. As Peppa looked into the mirror, something was wrong. Her reflection looked different, darker somehow. Peppa went to the kitchen to tell Mummy Pig about the mirror, but something was strange about the food she was cooking. Mummy Pig smiled at Peppa, but her eyes seemed empty, as if she was looking right through her. In George's room, even his favorite dinosaur toy looked menacing and wrong. When the family gathered for dinner, Peppa noticed everyone seemed different, like they were all wearing masks. Peppa returned to the attic, hoping the mirror could explain what was happening to her family. The mirror revealed the truth. It was showing her a dark parallel world where everything was corrupted. In the mirror world, her family had become monsters, living in a house of shadows and fear. The kitchen had become a place of nightmares, where Mummy Pig prepared meals that no one should ever eat. As Peppa stared into the mirror, she felt herself changing, becoming part of the dark world she was seeing. The house itself was changing around her, becoming the twisted version from the mirror. Her family, now completely transformed, welcomed her into their new dark reality with hollow smiles. Peppa realized the mirror was the source of the curse and tried desperately to break it. The mirror shattered into 1,000 pieces, but the curse had already taken hold. From the outside, Peppa's house looked normal, but inside, the curse lived on forever.
Scary Peppa Pig episode that never made it on TV. Peppa and George were playing in their bedroom when they noticed something strange. A new music box had appeared on Peppa's dresser, one that neither of them had ever seen before. The music box was painted in bright Peppa Pig colors, but something about it felt wrong. When Peppa wound it up, a haunting lullaby began to play, and a tiny dancer emerged from inside. The dancer looked exactly like Peppa, but smaller and made of porcelain. Her joints moved in ways that seemed unnatural, bending and twisting as she spun to the eerie melody. Her painted smile was too wide, stretching across her face in a way that made George hide behind his teddy bear. The music box. Peppa's glass eyes never blinked, never looked away, always staring directly at the real Peppa. Every night, the music would start playing by itself. The tiny dancer would emerge and perform her endless routine, singing the same haunting song over and over. Dance with me, play with me, never let me go. Round and round, we'll spin around, in circles we will flow. The melody echoed through the house, but strangely, only Peppa and George could hear it. Mummy Pig and Daddy Pig slept soundly, unaware of the nightly performances. As the days passed, the music box Peppa began to grow. Each morning, she was slightly larger than the night before. Her porcelain skin started to crack, revealing something dark underneath. Her painted dress became more vibrant, more real, while her smile grew even wider. She would whisper to Peppa during the day, her voice coming from inside the music box, even when it wasn't playing. The whispers became more insistent. Music box. Peppa told Peppa about the wonderful world inside the music box, where the music never stopped and the dancing never ended. She described a place where little girls could spin forever, where every day was filled with the same beautiful song, where no one ever had to grow up or worry about anything ever again. One night, Music Box Peppa was the same size as the real Peppa. She stepped out of the music box completely, her porcelain feet clicking on the wooden floor. Her movements were jerky and unnatural, like a marionette controlled by invisible strings. She approached Peppa's bed, her glass eyes reflecting the moonlight, her painted smile never wavering. "It's time to switch places," Music Box Peppa said, in a voice that sounded like wind chimes in a storm. "You can come live in my world, where everything is perfect and the music plays forever. I'll take your place here, in this boring world where the music always stops." She extended her porcelain hand toward Peppa, and for a moment, Peppa felt an overwhelming urge to take it. But George started crying, breaking the spell. The sound of his tears seemed to crack something in Music Box Peppa's perfect facade. Her smile flickered, her glass eyes dimmed, and she began to shrink back toward the music box. "Soon," she whispered as she disappeared inside. "Very soon, we'll dance together forever." The next morning, Peppa tried to tell Mummy Pig about the music box Peppa, but the music box had vanished. In its place was just an empty spot on the dresser, as if it had never existed at all. But sometimes, late at night, Peppa could still hear the faint sound of that haunting lullaby, and she knew that somewhere, music box, Peppa was still dancing, still waiting, still singing her endless song about dancing forever and never letting go.